The back squat is a full-body compound, multi-joint movement that is one of the most effective strength and power movements an athlete can incorporate into their training program. The back squat is a very natural and fundamental movement and is one of the best exercises to replicate and train movement patterns that would be seen in the sporting environment for athletic populations. The back squat utilizes a wide array of muscles, but the prime movers are the semidiosis, the semibronosus, and the bicep femoris, which is the hamstring. The quadricep, which is made up of the vastus lateralis, the vastus medialis, and the vastus intermedius. The hip flexor muscles used in flexion, extension, and abduction, which are the adductor magnus and the rectus femoris. The gluteus maximus and the erector spina, or the spinal erectors. The abdominal muscles, which help stabilize, and the gastrocnemius and the solars. The movement of the back squat trains the flexion and extension of the hip and knees, and even the ankle. The back squat is widely regarded as one of the best exercises for power and strength development, and is utilized in nearly all elite sporting environments worldwide. The squat is a very athletic and explosive position to create power and is productive and beneficial for athletes to train their joints and muscles to be able to produce and absorb force through these joints and supporting muscles. The flexion and extension of the knee and hip joint can be seen in a lot of movement patterns in sports where running and jumping are involved, and the back squat can help train this pattern and improve performance in athletes. Back squats are crucial for athletes because if they can squat with good form, it will help them to activate the muscles needed for sporting movements like jumping and pushing off the ground. Knowing how to activate the glutes, the quads, and the abdominals with the hamstring all together is one of the keys to being able to produce speed and power whilst maintaining stability and balance. If we're looking at the activation of motor units, Brandon and Holston 2015 reinforced how the recruitment of motor units with an explosive multi-joint movement such as a back squat enables an athlete to use their maximal amount of power and strength for the movement. They also indicate why the back squat is such a popular movement and is great at improving the rate of force development and power within an athlete, which allows the ability for an athlete to lift heavy loads in a back squat as the motor unit activation and being able to utilize neurological responses enhanced for the heavy lift that is required. The amount of motor neuron activation has been proven to significantly be beneficial for athletic performance because athletes need to be able to react quickly and be explosive, forceful, and dynamic, which requires power, strength, stability. And you won't find a lot of other exercises that will allow you to maximally recruit your motor units in the lower body as the back squat does. Allow you to maximally recruit your motor units in the lower body as the back squat does. With the back squat, the critical technique or the critical element of the back squat is to maintain a neutral spine and don't flex the torso forward. So this is done by keeping your abs nice and tight, your chest and your head up, and keeping the elbows below the bar. This ensures that your abs are nice and tight and you're stable. You want to bend at the hips and knees and want to make sure your knee goes over your toes. As you can see here, I'm showing that my knee is going inside my toes, which leaves me prone to twisting my ankle or twisting my knee, which leads to serious injuries such as an ACL. So as you can see here, my knees are tracking over my toes and over my feet, which is the optimal position and will allow the best results for the exercise and to ensure that you do not get injured. My knees are parallel with my hips at 90 degrees at the bottom of the lift. This part here I'm demonstrating when the torso is flexed forward. You can also see my heels are going off the ground and I'm putting most of my weight on my toes, which leaves my knee in a very bad position as my hamstrings are not engaged at all. All the pressure and weight would be going for my knees. So here now, I'm keeping my chest up, my head up, my heels are on the ground, abs and back nice and tight, my knees and hips are 90 degrees at the bottom of the lift. I'm going to drive my feet into the ground to make sure I stabilize all those muscles through the heels and the midfoot. and that'll ensure that the lift is done to the best of his ability. Here now is another demonstration of me leaning forward, so not keeping a neutral spine and letting my spine bend, which is very bad for obviously the lower back, your neck, because there's a lot of weight going through your neck. You want to keep your shoulders back, abs tight, chest up, head up. Sit down like you're in a chair. Knees and hips go at 90 degrees and you push through the ground through your heels and midfoot. You want to rack the bar on the upper back. So Connor's going to perform the back squat now. So he's got the bar on his upper back. He's just lying on his mid trap, bending at the hips, and his hips and knees are parallel at the ground, at the bottom of the thing, at the bottom of the movement. So he's got his feet shoulder width and his toes just pointing out a little bit to allow his knees to go over his toes natural. So just ensuring that his head and chest is up, keeping a neutral spine, nice deep breaths to ensure that the diaphragm and the abs are nice and tight to allow for the movement to perform correctly. Really focusing on moving the hips back like you're sitting down in a chair and driving your feet through the ground like you're on a leg press, pushing the ground away. So now we'll look at it at a different angle. So shoulders in between the head and chest, just placed on the upper back. Where he sit 2 steps and he sets his feet shoulder width with his toes pointing out a little bit. The knees over the toes, in line. So his head and chest are up to allow for a neutral spine, and his hip and knee extension is pretty good. So really driving through the heel and the midfoot. He doesn't really lean forward at all, and his form's pretty good. He was a bit unhappy because his ankle. He felt like his ankles or his heels were starting to come up. So have a bit of a regression here, or you can use 2.5 kilo plates just to really feel your heel into the plate or into the ground, and it makes the squat a lot easier. So you're able to get greater depth in your squat, so your hips can go past your knee at the bottom, and it really just it makes the squat feel a bit allows you to sit in the squat a bit more, and puts more of an emphasis on the quad because your hamstring's not used as much. So it's a great way for people who might not be able to get as deep as they want in a squat, or just someone who's starting to learn how to squat. Even people who have squatted. Connor's squatted a lot, like he's got a lot of training experience, but he was feeling sore, or his form was pretty good, but it just helps him get a bit deeper. And he said he really liked how it felt in his hips, and it put less strain on his knees and just really focus on the quad. So he was able to get deeper in his squat. So it's a good thing for a coach to use for an athlete. It's exactly the same form. Shoulder width, his elbows are under the bar, gets his feet placed, just the heels placed on the plate, on the 2.5 kilo plates, bending at the hips like he's sitting down in the chair, and the hips will go past the knee with the 2.5 kilo plates because you got a bit further down to go to the ground. So his head and chest is up, his back's nice and straight, like he's got a neutral spine, and really driving through the feet and really focusing on the heels. So there's just a little change up for the back squat that you can use. But this is how you perform a back squat.